June of 2017, and we're going to start off with a quick question. Go.
Okay, so a new patient, level 1, with an algorithm that would be like starting on the right. What would make you want to start on the left rather than on the side of the algorithm when it is a new patient still?
Okay, so you asked this question on the Facebook, and look, I'm going to give you. I never give a short answer because I want to give a thorough answer, but I want to give you enough information to satisfy you for now because it's a long question, and we'll go over things that will answer that tonight. Okay. I came from a place which is the model in upper cervical, okay, which is all models in vector-based upper cervical work. There is this mentality of fixing something, okay? So we were on this, I was on this quest to fix things, okay? I'm going to fix you, I'm going to fix this, I'm going to make it orthogonal. That has a number value of 0. Okay, that's fixed, brother. Okay, and after 20 years, I realize that is not true. Okay, so for 13 years, 12, 13 years, I did something that said this is to fix it, and then I carried that custom because I didn't know better. You have to go through a lot of experiences before you can make your own opinion. And there's a lot of those things that are inbred in you, man. I mean, so many of the things that we've done in QSm3 is because, because those were the customs and I had those customs. So you don't just break everything, I mean, I started this trying to move the atlas to turn the pelvis, okay? I mean, that's how this whole thing began, is like I realized that's a bigger lever down there. Okay, so the algorithm was designed to fix things, okay? That's not the way I see things now. There's levels of sustainability now. And level 1 says, I'm not trying to fix you. Number 2 says, I'm not trying to fix you. So when you say I'm using an algorithm, I'm thinking that you're telling me you're trying to fix somebody and they are at level 3, okay? So is that correct? Or is the other possibility is that you're calling the algorithm anything that we're doing to the person?
Yeah, I guess taking it as a rule.
No, okay, so that's cool, okay, because that rule was true up to the last conference, okay, where we started saying, hey, we can't do that. That's why we have this whole mentality of decompressing it at level 1 and walking them up to first base and then unwinding it. You got to kick these things out, man. We're going to talk about this stuff tonight. Okay, this is a great question. Okay, but we're going to talk about these things tonight. There is a process to taking care of the human body structurally. It is not a one-time fix it. Okay? You know how I know that? Because I did this and I was good at it, okay? And that's no place where I am today, okay? Because I was one of the best at it, and I proved that, and I look back and I say I really didn't know much, okay? And that's cool, okay? I don't know much right now either, come to the place I'm going to be in 5 years or a year from now. I hope so. I don't want to run out of gas on this. I like this stuff, man. There's nothing wrong with being somewhere, and being satisfied in that place. And this is the place that I'm satisfied in, and I want to share that with you tonight. But that process is something that I do, and it's a lifetime of care. Because, listen, nobody fixes anybody, all right? The goal is to take a system that is in distress. And, it's a simple thing. Is how do I say that to people? I said, I know, okay, that you're in distress because you're here, and your body's talking to you and you've had enough and you've been to other places, So there is a process to taking care of people. I don't fix people. Maybe other people can do that, but I can't do that. What I can do is create an energetic state that the body says, you know what, I can deal with that. And that is what is the definition of health, is that when you have a positive energetic state for, you know, the stuff that you're trying to do in your life. Pretty simple. Because the human body otherwise will tell you. And it tells me every day when I'm sore and I'm this, tells me, hey, frickin' Friedman, you know, you're killing yourself. You know? So, you know, we just keep moving along. Anyway, here we go. Okay, so we're going to start looking at that process, all right? So take a look at this, okay? And, you know, I put something up on Facebook, and you know, I like to hear what people have to say, and every once in a while I get a little annoyed about it, okay? So I put this up with the intention to poke, okay? It was to poke, okay? I just, you know, sometimes I get fed up, like all of us do, and okay, and it was the wrong thing to do. I took it down, but I learned something, and okay, I learned something that I already know, and I learned a couple other things, and that is I put this picture up, and I said in that post, I said, does anybody really know what's going on here? Is there anybody that can look at this and tell me what's going on and, you know, give me an idea of how to fix this thing type of idea using that language without the word fix? Okay? And I got two answers from chiropractors. One is there was a hemivertebra, okay? And that's okay, okay? Because if there is a hemivertebra, that's great that that person noticed it. But that's not a chiropractic answer, but it is a chiropractic answer. The other person said, and I said, no, tell me what's going on here. And another person said there's a compensation. That's all I got out of chiropractic that chimed in. And that to me is less than what a medical doctor would tell me. Okay? So my job is not to diagnose a hemivertebra or a compensation. Okay? I think chiropractic is about, you know, doing something else here. And what we have done, and the only thing that we have done, which is the same thing that medicine has done, is gotten more detailed at measuring the same thing and calling it something different than the other guy. This guy measures it X, I measure it 2X, I now call it the Bob procedure. And all we do is either look at some type of diagnostic and see where it is, the end result, which is exactly what this picture is. It's an end result of a lifetime of however that person is and the trauma and everything that it's been through. And the only thing that we've done is measure it. We've measured it with heat. We've measured it one bone to another. We've measured it the tilt, the twist. And basically, it's a piece of plastic in 2 dimensions. And to me, it tells a lot more information. One day I looked at this and I said, man, this is a lot, okay? So we've gone to measure, to changing it, to measuring, to changing, measuring, changing, and measuring, changing. And everybody's got a system of somehow of seeing a snapshot in time of what this is, okay? So that something is a lot more than that. And the conversations that I like to have now are trying to explain to people and open up to people, and you hear the same stuff over and over from me, and hopefully you hear it better. And hopefully I say it better because I have, you know, more information that, you know, that makes it better. And what I've noticed is that this is really not as complicated, okay? If we can stand back, and the cool thing is, or the reason it's not so complicated is because for some fantastic reason, when we are close to doing what we want to do, which we don't even know what we want to do yet, do we? Okay? I mean, if I show this to a chiropractor, I say to them, what do we want to do here? I don't know what they want. And what are they going to say? Okay? Does anybody even look at this and say, this is what I want to do? So we're going to stand back and we're going to look at this thing and we're going to figure out that there's a lot of components that go on here. And we can stand back further each time and realize that even though it's so complicated, that it can get simplified. And the reason it gets simplified is because innate intelligence is so grateful to have some help. And that's called grace, man. It's grace of health, grace of everything. Is we don't have to be perfect 100% like universal intelligence and innate intelligence to actually live in a space where we enjoy life. And chiropractic, it has a responsibility to me is to look at this. Maybe chiropractic has no responsibility. Okay, that's really, that's me putting something on them. But I look at this and I say, you know, this person is in distress. There is a current biostructure called tensegrity that says, hey, we need to understand this thing, okay? We need to be able to measure it. There's a pattern to it. That person isn't going to just go right or left. We're able to take pictures of this thing and look at it and have some sort of pattern. I think that's reasonable. I think that there is a relationship here that the human body there's a relationship in a sense that the body has had some structural damage and there's some type of neurological balance. You know, nothing in innate intelligence or universal intelligence is random. So I think that we can learn a lot from this picture and start looking at a way to measure it better, a way to look at the patterns of the way that things respond and the relationships that the head has to the shoulder and the shoulder has to the pelvis and the pelvis has to the head. And then we can say, okay, now we have a good idea of how we understand the biomechanics of the human body. Now the other half of the job begins. And that is, how do I go ahead and change that to a place that I think is better? And what is that place that's better? And can I do that today? So, you know, there's a lot of things that we have not had conversations about. There was a gentleman that was on Facebook today. He posted on my timeline and he said, hey, is anybody interested in start joining into a new chiropractic group on current topics? And I chimed in and I said, what current topics? So somebody chimed in, practice management. That's not a current topic. Okay? That's an old topic at this point. Okay? A new current topic is this conversation here. It's called chiropractic. Okay? And that's what I want to perpetuate your business with and my business model with so that we could take care of people better. Okay. So that's what tonight's conversation is going beyond, oh, there it is. Oh, there it is. There's the pelvis, there's L5, there's L3, there's L2, there's the shoulder, there's the extremity, there's the atlas, there's the head. Okay? And looking at this thing and saying, man, I need to understand the biomechanics. This is involved, okay? And understanding that this is a system that's in tension. And it's also in a place where if you look at it, just to stand back for a moment, you'll see, especially on that sagittal view, it's in a system that's in compression. I had a lady standing on my posture IQ today. She said, you know, I took one of your information on QSm3 and blood pressure. She says, my sister is just started blood pressure medication, and I need to get her in here. I said, okay, cool. I said, you know, when the body goes off center, it collapses. It's such an easy thing to see that, you know, if you take a balloon and you compress it, what's going to happen to it? That balloon just gets compressed and there's pressure building up on the inside. I said, so what do you think the heart is going to do? And you know what she did? She raised her eyebrow. like, oh, that makes sense. You know, not just you just have blood pressure, okay? So there's a reason for these things that are going on in people's bodies. I have conversations in a consultation. I did it today with Dr. Puro. He was down and I had a new patient in the office. And, you know, I let people look at their full spines. I let them look at their film and I said, hey, I'm just going to go grab some water. I said, why don't you come on up and take a look at what's going on? And they get to see what's going on. And when I walk in, they tell me they see what's going on. And I said, you know, I haven't even talked to this person except to say hi to them, okay? And I start having conversation with them of what they see as trouble and also where the trouble is and how it relates to the symptom that they're having that they haven't even told me about. That's cool. I said to the lady today, she's having all kinds of neurological stuff. I said, how am I doing with that? She says, you're hitting it right on the nose. Okay. So we have a lot of work to do, and I've started that. And the piece that we need is the piece of biomechanics, that we understand this as a vitalist that says this is an alive system, and understand that this is a system in tension, okay? And it's also a system that needs to have an adjustment somehow, some way, to get all those bends out in different directions, to understand where is the primary, what started this thing, what's last in it. Okay, we just started looking at that kind of stuff, man. How did this thing happen? Okay, so those are the conversations we're going to have tonight. So the first conversation is, and this is one of the conversations I've had with you before, is in 5th quarter I had normal radiology, and the teacher, Guy Annunziato, some of you may know him, he put up and he said, listen, if you want to know what sick is, okay, you got to know what normal is. Okay, so this is normal. Okay. And it's so cool because I've always known that the atlas should be straight. And then I realized that everything needed to be straight. Okay? And people have talked about the curve in the neck and why, oh, you got to have a curve in the neck, but why do you have to have a curve in the neck? Well, because that's the way it's supposed to be. But why? Okay? So it just like dawned on me some of the, and I became interested in the anatomy and the engineering, and we'll talk about some of that tonight. So this is a normal, picture-perfect person, probably that curve, if lumbar curve looks a little straight on the sagittal, but it's the best picture I could find, you know, and here it is, and this is it, okay? And this will be the last time you see this again, because they will never walk into your office because this is not real. Okay? Because people have had a whole lot of trouble, but this is what normal looks like. We are straight, okay, here. All right, let me get my little marker out. We're straight in the frontal plane. Okay, here. We should be straight, and over here we got some curves. You know, we all take that for granted. We learned in school, oh, this is straight, this is curved. Oh, that curve is breaking down, now it's straight, now it's kyphotic, now it's degenerating. Look at that anterior translation. All kinds of what I call mechanism. Seeing where it is and going, oh, look at that. Okay? So I want to talk tonight about why this is here, because why this is here helps us do what? Recreate that, because we understand better on how it works, okay? So that's a cool thing. So this is a straight frontal plane, and you should have, you know, C0 over C7 over L5, and, you know, over the symphysis pubis, and everybody's happy, okay? And then on this one, you know, probably it's C5 over L3, okay, and everybody's happy. Something like that, okay? And so let's talk a little bit more. I talked a little bit about that last time, but I find this to be so important for us because it's changed the direction of my correction and my release, and it's changed the direction of my language with people, and it's changed my direction of my productivity, okay, meaning my response rate, okay, of people going, that's better, okay. So the sagittal system is the tensegral system. And the tensegral system is really the current conversation in anatomy and with the myofascial people, that the human body is made to be tensegral, which is kind of like it's a tension system. Okay, it's like a balloon, okay? It's pushing outward. But they use some funny language in it. They say, you know, it's really a tension compression syndrome, which is not really what a tensegrity system is, okay? And, you know, we take that for granted. So I read that and I go, okay, it's a tension compression system. I don't really understand what that means, but that's what they mean and that's their business and I'm just the guy fixing it, okay? So tonight I want to look at one of the few things that go with this, and that is that we need to have some bounce in our body, okay? I talk to my patients about bounce now. I said there's two things we need to have. We need to have bounce and we need to have rigidity, okay? We need to be stable, okay? We can't just be jello flowing bouncing all over the place, okay? So the way that we do that is we have a two-pronged system, okay? Two-plane system, all right? Buildings don't bounce really well, okay? So we don't make straight as a pencil. Straight as a pencil doesn't bounce, okay? So we have a three-curve system, and that system is learned. It is the only learned walking system on the planet that I know of. A horse pops out, it's gone. It's up, okay? The human kid comes out, it ain't moving. It's screaming and crying. That's all it's doing, okay? And the reason for that is that standing up involves a whole lot of muscle control, a whole lot of neurology, and the ability to have some bounce, okay? And it's for that reason your heart comes out, it's working, your brain's coming out, it's working, your ears are working, okay? But posture is probably one of the last things, okay, that is absolutely crucial to human existence that doesn't come at, is completed last, okay? And why is that? To me, it speaks one thing, because it takes the most amount of neurological wiring, okay, and sophistication, which means what? We rule, okay? Posture rules. I tell people, you know, in my office, I said your posture app uses the most amount of energy, okay? It is like 10 video apps to the calculator app, okay? And we see the effects of it with grandma bending over, okay? So this system is what gives us bounce. And when it breaks down, it's a problem. We'll talk about that in just a moment. The other system is the frontal system. It's just fascinating. Look at the muscles, okay? There is a post that runs down the middle, like a telephone pole, and there are two foundations, the pelvis and the shoulders. And there are guy wires running them from either side, okay? What do you think? Man got it? I mean, God got it from man? No, look at this. It's right there in front of us. So the same physics that we had an awareness to is obviously the same physics that universal intelligence is using from the beginning for maximum stability. If man wants to secure a post like this, he puts up guy wires in this way. And that's exactly the way the muscle system is made, okay? And this system helps us support tensegrity. It's a supportive model, okay? Cool, isn't it? I just find it to be fascinating. No? Cool? Not cool? I think it's freaking the coolest thing I know right now. You know why? Because if you can go after these systems in a systematic way, guess what? You can make some changes that actually restores people to that flexibility and that bounce. Okay? I have that experience. Okay. So, you know the beauty of everything is that there's damage. And then we get to do what we do, which to me is awesome. I love it. And this system is obviously not normal. This system is obviously not tenseegral. And this system is obviously not structurally sound and stable. Okay? So every day we see its breakdown. And it's complicated. How many people can have a conversation about this sitting here in front of me beyond the space of where it is? So we need to understand it. And there are things that go into this story. And that is there is a structural damage. There is a neurological response of the body's want and necessity to restore the head over the pelvis. Why? because posture is the largest app, and gravity is the largest stress, and there are the effects of it. And the Donald Ingber Weiss Institute says that the loss of tensegrity and compression affects us at a biochemical level. That's at the bottom of the net. So if we can change this, the data is out there and people are already saying that this is bad for people. And we are the only people looking at this and saying that we have a way to initiate a release to help us to a better place. That's not just a bone out of place. Okay? So that's what you do by coming on with me and listening with me and hanging out. Okay. So the first thing is, what is our purpose? What are we trying to do? Are we trying to make this person straight as a pencil? I mean, if you talk to a person in chiropractic, you know, this person will say, I'm trying to change this temperature gauge. This person will say, I'm trying to get a curve in the neck. This one will say, I'm trying to get that bone straight, like an atlas. Okay? So those are all pieces to the part, okay? My goal is to do a couple things for my patients, okay? My goal personally is to release this tension system that is short, okay? Grandma always falls down and grandma always falls forward. Look at the picture, guys. We have to release people up and we have to release them forward to backward because things fall down. Okay, and when things fall down on one side, okay, they may get longer or stretched on the other side. As this head tilts to this side, this muscle tension on this opposing side is being elongated. But this is caused, the short, this is long, the effect. Okay, so what we try to do is release what's short. Okay, and what that does is allows us to look at the relationship of 6 structures of the head, the neck, the shoulder, the spine that we call the fixed point, which is the VP over L5 and its relationship here. Since this is right here, that this would be a right fixed point because it's to the right of L5. Okay, we look at the low pelvis and we look at the weight because the weight is a function of gravity. Okay, and weight is a function of how the human body and what that, you know what weight actually is the differential is the exertion of what the human body feels in relationship to gravity in that misalignment. So when you see somebody that's 30 pounds, they are really, that exertion is 30 pounds, which is a cool concept. That's what gravity says it is. So gravity is part of this equation, okay, and that's why weight is part of this equation. Okay, the goal for us here is to create those 6 pieces, head, neck, shoulder, the top 3 pieces that we call function, and the 3 bottom pieces, the fixed point, the spine, okay, aka the low hip and the weight. Those 3 things are what we call structure or below. So we want the structure going in one direction, like left here, and those other guys going to the right, 3 and 3. When we do that, we call that a balanced state, and we call that level 3. There are 5 levels, all right? And we'll go through those. I can't go through everything tonight, but there are levels of sustainability, and we decompress this. What do you have to do to this first? You gotta unsquash it, right? And then you gotta, integrate it, and then you've got to go through other processes. So as you stick with the organization and the classes and the webinars and conferences, you'll see the flow patterns of this stuff. But these webinars are kind of, give us a little juice in between those times and get some new information and have an opportunity to ask some questions. But the biggest piece for me of all this is to get you to the place where I'm at. And that place is to feel super comfortable making a decision based on what you know and what you've experienced, and not just a guess. Okay? Not a guess. All right? Something bigger than a guess based on experience. Okay? So that being said, is I put up stuff on the webinar, on Facebook, on the doctors group, and if you're not part of that, I invite you to join that group. You could just send a member's request, but I put up kind of complicated cases. Why? Because if they were easy and you got them right, you're never going to learn anything. So you got to look at stuff and be stumped and try to figure something out. And if you use that gear and you start getting an idea, guess what will happen? You'll make plenty of mistakes like I do every day, but you'll start seeing the process. So the cool thing about what I can do now is that I have a measuring device called a Posture IQ, and it will talk to me with innate intelligence and tell me what's happening from what I just did. If I just released somebody on the right-hand side and the weight increased, well, is that good? Well, it depends on the misalignment. What was I trying to do? Okay, was I trying to release it out, or was I trying to correct it towards center? So by knowing what is going on and understanding these relationships and hanging out with us through this stuff, you're going to start seeing problem solving, and you're going to have an awareness that when somebody walks into your office, and when that happens, my friends, that you start having that awareness and that experience and that confidence builds, you will walk into the next place where you'll be at peace in your adjustment. And that is the only place that you have to be to release this. So the confidence in the biomechanics is what creates the peace that allows us to be in the zone of the swinging and releasing, so to speak. Okay? All right, so that is the purpose. Okay, so as chiropractors, I've talked about this tension, I've talked about tensegrity, I've talked about what's short, but we're looking at this picture as a chiropractor. So yes, I'm going to ask, hold on, I'm going to turn low. Okay, there you go. Okay, sorry about that. I just wanted to turn off somebody who's had their mic on. But this picture is not about the myofascial system. It's also about the osseous system. Okay, so we have this balloon that is attaching to all these bones. And it's these bones that allow us to do two things. It allows us to hold up this posture, okay? So it gives us rigidity. And the other thing that it gives us, by having small attachments that keep leapfrogging, okay, and that is that we get to have fine motor movement, okay? So we get tons of stability. I used to look at anatomy as, oh, this is the QL here. This is the psoas here. This is the lat here. Here's supraspinatus there. There's the rhomboid there. Blah, 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 blah. And I realized that the whole system is one giant system. Okay? It's like a telephone pole that goes from New York to California. Okay? There's not just two poles in a wire. There's pole after pole after pole after pole. The whole thing is integrated. Same with the whole United States. It's all integrated, guys. It's all connected. And everything is connected here. Okay? So we can now look at the neck area as a hub that attaches and inserts all of this stuff that comes up from the bottom, all the way up to the top. Why? Because the whole system has to react as a unit, as posture, not just as pieces and parts. That would be ridiculous. Okay? It is a three-dimensional, orchestrated, 100% of the time, optimal energy using, incredible, most amazing thing on the planet. Okay? And this area up here is where everything comes up and inserts. And I call it my keyboard. This is my keyboard. I used to play one key. I found out there's about 8 of them, C0 to C7. And then there's a black and white part of them. There's the TPs and the spinuses. Okay, so we really have about 16 keys. So every single person has a postural breakdown that you need to figure out how to play that keyboard to get it to release. Okay? So we have a cervical release. There is a pattern that you're going to establish in a person. Okay? And Dr. says, over time, you will establish that pattern. People will release, 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 and release, and bob around until they settle into a pattern. Okay? They wouldn't come to you otherwise. They would have had it fixed by somebody else, so to speak. Okay? The people that are coming to you are 100-foot extension cords that you gave to 5, 10-year-olds and asked them to twist it and tie it in a knot as much as you can. And that's what you need to figure out how to unwind. And it is the coolest, and it's the coolest thing I do, man. I love it. I'm doing it right now with you. So this thing is complicated, yet it has a pattern that we get to look at. And at first, with QSm3, and what I realized is that I can't fix this. I need to open it. What would you have to do to this first? You have to open it, right? So there are release patterns that we will walk through this and try to figure out what we got to do. And the goal is to get them to this. One of these patterns that we either call RRR-LLL, where the pelvis fixed point, I've already mentioned this, and the shoulder would go to the right. And on this one, the neck, head, and the shoulder will go to the left, or go the opposite way. So basically, you got 3 on the top and 3 on the bottom. 3 structures, 3 functions opposing. 3 structures, 3 opposing. And once you do that, you are at level 3 sustainable. After that, we try to reduce the numbers down to 0 to 3 millimeters and 0 to 3 pounds. Okay, that's level 4. And then after that, we want to stick the pole in the ground. And that is where you have this complete sagittal release, and the person stands up and they go, wow, I feel like I'm standing with my shoulders way back. And you go, okay. And you could feel that pop in place. All right? I did not know that place existed 4 months ago. Okay? I call it BJ's secret. Okay, so now that we know how to play the game, which we just have been talking about, I haven't taught you anything, I'm just talking tonight. That's what this is about. Now that we know how to play is, how do we go ahead and do we plan to change that? How do we do that? So we have a placement system in QSm3 that says, you know what? This is a system that is in short, it's compressing. Yes, it's in tension, but I want to release the stuff that's compressing. So what do you think I do with them? I have a short rubber band. So I need to figure out a placement that actually accesses them and stretches them. Kind of takes them to their maximum stretch. So say I wanted to work on this area right here that's short, and this side was up. I could position the shoulder, this pelvis, the head, the neck, the headpiece height, that kind of stuff, the legs into a position that actually will traction this whole side and open this side. Well, what happens if I'm on this side and I want to traction that side? Well, I can do that too with placement. How about if I'm on this side and I want to traction this side? Well, I can do that too. How about if I want to traction the neck and I'm on this side? Well, I can get that too. So I can do that through placement, and I can do that at where I touch the neck. Because if you look at this as a balloon, okay, and just imagine pushing into a balloon, where does it stretch? It stretches everything. When you push in, it pulls everything. So this is a balloon system that chiropractic has been pushing into, and really what happens when you push into a balloon? It pushes the other areas completely out. That's great, because this is a system that's a balloon that's basically lost its air and it's collapsing. And when we push into it, guess what it does? It pops it out. And guess what happens? We go, hey, chiropractic works. And it does. The problem with that whole scenario is it doesn't work enough. See, that's the other word. It doesn't work enough. How do I know that? Because the biggest thing in our business is not chiropractic, and I won't go there. But you know what it is, all right? That just got my blood pressure up, okay? So this system is collapsing, And through placement and through line of drive and through understanding that there are 6 balloons, not 1, and there's not 2 balloons like some other people think, there's actually the rest of the body and how they're related, and how do we go ahead and start looking at these patterns and understanding how to play those keyboards so we can release it. And you know the thing that's cool is that people, I'll tell you what's cool is, when I was in 4th quarter, and when we were in dissection, you know what's the coolest thing to me? Is that the vagus nerve in everybody was in the same place. Going, okay, Friedman's really lost his mind. No, it's just the coolest thing, because you know what? When I touch somebody, Bob, Mary, Sue, guess what? Their attachments are in the same place. So if I learn how to play, okay, most people play 50, 60, 70, 80%. They all play in the same place. They all have the same crap. They're all falling down. They're all falling forward, okay? And what we have to do is just understand how to go after those tension lines and release it. Couldn't you see your hands right there, just leaning into this and just releasing this tension right here? Couldn't you see that? Guys, can you see that? This person is right side up, and can't you see, look at this tension right here from about, let's call it T4, T5, up here to C7, T1. Just look at that bend right there. Can't you think you could feel that? What do you think's bending that over? The bone's not doing it. Bones don't move. They only move because they're commanded to move and then activated to move by something else. They are 3rd tier, the bone. My guys are the nervous system and the muscle system. And it's the bone system that I use to move and release those 2 things, the nervous system and the fascial system. That's what chiropractic is. So I lean into these places and release that. What about this right here? What about if I get this person right here and I release right in there? What about all this tension? What happens if I just go a little bit I to S right here, guys? What do you think about opening this whole area up? You think there's some tension there? You think you'll notice that? Yeah, for sure you'll notice it. Okay? You know who notices it? Everybody that touches those people. The people that don't notice it are chiropractors that use instruments and medical doctors, because they never touch somebody. Dee felt the bump on the back. It's the clue of a century. It's those tension lines that we need to release, and the better we do that, because the better we understand it, okay, and that takes 2 things. Biomechanics of understanding how this alive system works, and then understanding the release patterns. So there is this vagus nerve concept, and I want to share that with you. I'll share that with you in Seattle, because that's something that I have to show you, okay? I have to show you how I release people. I can't talk that to you. And that's still difficult for itself, because I have to get you to a place where you feel, okay? But there is a release motion that's synergistic by you. There is a release paths that are common and ordinary for the average person. You know, eyeballs just aren't on the back of the head, all right? You don't have to go fishing. You know, we just need to learn the map, okay? And I got a pretty idea of what's going on. Okay, so what I noticed is that biomechanics isn't enough. And I'm going to tell you this, and I'm telling you it's truth, is that when I measure somebody and I look at somebody and I get the numbers, okay, all that stuff tells me where they are, okay? I have to make a decision on how I'm going to try to release that, okay? And it's pretty straight up. From there, once I lay them down on the table and set them up, all I do now is go after tension. So all I go after is that what I call tension, asymmetrical tension. Dr. Gregory and Nuka used to call it resistance. BJ called it a bump. Okay? So we feel that, all right? And that is the place that you have to be. This is not a mechanical model because the human body is not mechanical. It's quantum, hence the name. It is a liquid crystal that has no boundaries from one thing to the other. We have created those boundaries. Heart, lung, vein, blood, cell, just the way Adam named the animals when we separated ourselves there. So the more separate we get, the more separate we are. Okay? So if you want to adjust somebody to TP, and I'm going to go I to S and A to P, you will never be in the place where I want to show you, ever. You will never have the full joy of this that we do. So there's a place where you just got to learn how to touch and use your power, okay, and be loose. All right? I used to be the stiffest guy in town, and not healthy. Okay? If I don't stay loose and stay healthy, I can't overcome resistance. It is the key to what you do. If you are not healthy, if you are not taking care of yourself, you cannot take care of somebody else. You don't have enough in you to do that. It's apparent because you don't have enough in you already to do that. Hence why people come to us, because they don't have enough in them to do that. All right? So this is just I tell this to my patients, this is a message from your sponsor. Okay? All right? You got to take care of yourself. If you want the touch, you have to be able to have the touch. You can't have so much stress in you. Okay? And then you just lean into it with your power. And you just, as you being loose. I mean, I had a guy today, a Parkinson's guy. I don't know if Sean is on, but this Parkinson's guy, he's an interesting guy. When he can't walk, which is most of the time, his right foot just starts shaking while he's standing there, and it won't move. It's just shaking like 100 beats per second. Boom, 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 boom. Like he's playing the bass, drum. Bam, 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 bam. It's just shaking, and it won't move. It won't take the step. It's trying, but it can't engage. Okay. So when we get him down on the table, I have to. It's like steel. I have to relax, and once I get loose, I have to get so loose, okay, that it starts moving, okay, and it starts releasing. And today he got up and he walked a mile a minute. He held his little cruiser. He does that a lot after I adjust him. His nervous system's back on, but then, whatever the mechanism is with Parkinson's and blah, 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 where he's at, it starts locking down. Okay, but it's getting better and better. It's a better and better. No, there's another guy. But it's better and better and better, So you have to be able to connect. And this is not a mechanical thing. It's not just a little poke at it. It's an intimate relationship. My piezoform is an extension of my whole body. I'm relaxed. My mind is quiet. My environment is chill. Most of my lights in my office are off. Why? Because I like it that way. Okay, you've heard me say this over and over. Paint your own picture. If you resonate where you want to be, if you want your office to be bright yellow, man, then knock yourself out. Don't paint it green because you think it'll be better for business. Okay? So all these things for your success are right there if you just take care of yourself. I know that. I've had this experience of not taking care of myself. I know the truth of it. Okay? I'm telling you, and because I don't know if I'm sure you've had the taste of the experience. Okay? But on a daily basis, knowing that you're connecting with people, and it's work. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's easy, okay? But it's the most fulfilling thing that you can do on the planet, okay? I know that's what you're here for, okay? So think about taking care of yourself. Thinking about the effort before you walk into the office and making sure how relaxed you are and you've stretched out and you've given yourself enough opportunity that when you step into the room, you just do your thing, man. Okay? So, you get to be who you want to be when you can really do some great work. Be who you want to be. I say whatever I want to my patients, and you know that. You know? I say what I want, okay? And they know where it's coming from. I tell them to, you know, like I'm telling you right now, take care of yourselves, okay? All right, so let's talk about some stuff, man. Let's get serious down to business here. So the human body, every single thing about it is patterns, okay? And our job is to look at those patterns and see a better way to release those patterns, all right? So when you start looking at stuff, you know, start looking at what's going on. Stand people up and say, what is going on? What's the relationship here? How could this happen? Okay? My most frustrating misalignments are solved by me figuring out what is the last piece that got in there. Okay? Because if you can find the last piece, it's kind of like finding the end of the cord. You can start releasing it. Okay? And I'll tell you what I mean. All right? I won't answer it, but if you have everybody's right, all the way across the board versus somebody that's all right and left, wait. That person, how do you have all rights, okay, and wait on the left? How could that happen? Well, if you don't think about it, then you can't figure it out, okay? And how could you have all rights and the neurology's not working? Why isn't anything turning back to the left if the head doesn't subluxate? It only compensates. So if you got all rights, why isn't the head turning left? Well, there's got to be an answer for that, because innate intelligence doesn't make an error. So if it's there, it's real. And it's doing it because there's a structural neurological relationship and a pattern. And there are only so many patterns that we see. There's 6 pieces, okay? So there's only so many patterns. So the more you experience them, you go, oh, I know what works with that pattern, all right? So one of the patterns to help you with that is the pattern of innate intelligence, okay? And it's not innate. It's not random. It's innate, okay? It's organized. It's 100% perfect, all right? So its goal is to restore structure. So to do that, no different than, like we talked before, the physics of it, is it's going to use the guy wires to restore that structure at the TPs. These are the stabilizers that go across on the side. These are the traps and the lats and everything else across the back, okay? And this whole thing is being pulled back. Shoulders are being pulled back. Curves are being pulled back. 2 curves against 1. 2, why? Because there's 2 because we stand. And those 2 curves, the cervical and the lordotic curves, pull us back, okay? And they get pulled back by the attachments at the spinuses. They get supported by the guy wires at the TP. So if you have breakdowns in this plane, you need to think about TP attachments. If you are having breakdowns in the frontal plane, in the sagittal plane, and in the curves and forward, okay, then you have to look at the spinuses. Now, why I'm saying it this way. You have to look at these places. I look at all of them, okay? I'm just making a point that these are the spaces that you look in, okay? Once you're able to release the structure to some sort of state of where it can be, okay, because that may not be a good enough place, there is a possibility to get into another structure below the spinuses and the TPs of the structure and the neurology, and that is getting into the dura. And the attachments of the dura are up at C2 and up at just above C2, that's around C1. Okay, so you can get to go and play in those areas and think about what you change. I have a guy in my office, he was there today. He started about a month and a half ago, and he tells me that he has a pain on the inside of his ear. He says it's in his head, but he feels the pain pulling from inside and pulling the head. And he's been to neurologists, he's had scan, schman, everything, whatever. Nobody knows nothing, okay? So I said, oh, maybe you have some dural that's stressed there and it's attached, okay? So this is a place where I want to get into that. And for me to get there, I need to clear the structure in the neurology before I could even get into that. It's like if your foundation isn't built, you can't say, well, I'd like to hang out on the third floor. It's not available, okay? So these processes have to happen rapidly and more efficiently as we do better. And that's really the purpose of what I'm about and what we're about in QSm3. Yeah. My wife's poking at me. She said, looking out the window, it's like a purple sky on the mountains, and I'm just hanging out here. It's all good. So, man, you know, looking at those mountains and releasing the dura is, I'll take releasing dura, just to let you know. Okay? And then guess what happens after that? Okay? Is we get to a place where we can actually get into restoring dynamic tensegrity. Okay? Where we can get into a place where the person is standing upright. Okay? The structure is better, the function is better. You have an ability to feel all that tension has diminished to great extents, and you're able to get in, and C2 pops its head up like a turtle's head. And you're able to bend it all over the place, and you feel the attachments like you're pulling on a kite, and a kite gets pulled in the wind. That's what it feels like working the dura, is this kite pulling you as you're tugging it, okay? It's not pulling you. You're actually, when you go to release it, you're pulling on it, but you feel it tugging back because you feel the restriction in it. And you're able to release that to whatever level you're able to release that, me included, okay? I don't release everything 100% all the time, believe me. I never have. I probably have never gotten anybody 100%, okay? Which is kind of cool, okay? So there's a place after that there's no more stress into the hand when you touch it. Where my piezoform goes in and I poke around and there's no more tension at the TPs, there's no more tension at the spinuses, there's no tension at C2, and this is an extension of C2, the dura, because there's none of it is separate from any of itself. So, okay? So from C2, as and the dura starts opening and you break up the tension around rectus, capitis, posterior minor, and major, then guess what happens is, and the dura starts relaxing, and you start getting some flexibility into the cervical spine, okay? And you start what I call reaching in and leaning in. And you restore motion, and guess what, guys? Vagus nerve. Everybody's neck moves in the same direction, but nobody moves the way it's supposed to, okay? Enough. Okay, you'll find a couple people, like I have one lady that has huge range of motion, man. It's unbelievable. The place I have to put her on the table just to get her attention. Because if I can't get her attention, I can't release what's there. Okay? So once you get past these places of structure and function and dura, you can get to reach into the dynamics of the human body. And to me, then, where you're restoring three-dimensional motion, it's like you take the cast off somebody, and now the work really begins to restore motion in that joint, right? Is because we're moving. So imagine when you're in there and you're releasing that, and you can feel that, and you feel that stuff go away. It just melts, and it's work. I'm sweating sometimes. But when that releases away, Okay? I don't need a posture IQ to tell me what I did. I mean, because I know, and I felt enough people to know that I'm changing this person's life, and I talk to them that way, exactly like this, about restoring motion, and they're upright, and blood and oxygen and movement, and their shoulders are back. I talk to the ladies about shoulders slumping forward and that tension in that area with the lymph nodes. I said, you think that's got any pink ribbon merit? They raise their eyebrows, man. Teach blood flow, oxygen flow to an open human body. To constantly having to work on it because life is active, 206 moving bones, and gravity is stressful. So there is no randomness to this, my friends. This is not luck. You don't just bounce around. There is a map to this thing, okay? And it sits in front of us, and we've learned more tonight about the curves, about 2 curves, 1 curve, sagittal system, TPs, spinuses, frontal system, attachments, and we can see the physical matrix and the intelligence that we see in the everyday world. We see it ever present in the thing that we're supposed to be the experts about, and we learn nothing about, and no technique even talks about. What is normal? What is our purpose? And how do we get there? And then how do we understand this better? And then the application to that, okay, so that we can hit the ball. Because referees don't do great jobs at hitting the ball. Okay, so the frontal plane axis. Guys, just look at this picture and feel where the tension is going to be. Just see it. It's right there in front of you. Just look at what you're going to have to do. You think that's a good spot? Huh? You know. So, big players for the TPs, C7, C5, C1, and the C0 rim. Okay? And, you know, we're playing, you know, leapfrog, you know, telephone lines and, you know, with the poles. Well, there's a big pole right here, guys. It's called C7. And it's where a lot of the stuff, why, how do I know? That's why the shoulder's there, the clavicle's there, the scapula's there, the humerus is there. C7 is the T1 is the biggest VP, okay? Big TP, biggest cervical, okay? Why? Because it's big, it needs to anchor stuff, and it does. And you got to reach in there and get in on that TP because you got to be able to release the frontal plane. People's shoulders that are collapsing, okay? People's shoulders that are tilting and low. What do you think's happening there? Low shoulder, short side. You need to get in on that C7. Now, where else do you think you got to get in? Remember, it's a guy wire. C5. Can you see the wire? Here it is coming across all the way up. All the way up here. And where else is it going to attach? The second place is in the neck at C5. C5 carries more load than all of them. It carries the head, the neck, and the shoulder. That's what it does. That's why we see it breaking down. Because it's the center of the arc. It's the keystone. So its mechanical advantage is the strongest. Why? Because innate intelligence knew that that was the space, and it put an arch there because it realized that it had to have so many attachments so that human beings could stand up. Oh, I love this. Okay, same thing here, man. So you know, you got anchors below. Just think where you would anchor them. The anchors below, anchor the stuff down here. If you want to release weight and structure stuff down here, you got to dig in there, man, and find that tension and start releasing it. You want to release the stuff more for the neck and the head? Well, C5 to C1. That's where this stuff anchors. Okay? And C and C0 is the insertion for the head and the dura. Okay? Now, I don't think about these things when I do this. But I did think about these things so I can do this the way I do this now. So it's important to understand this stuff. So when I look at a listing and I got 15 pounds on the left and I got left side up, I'm not touching them at C1. I'm freaking going after that spot first, okay? Because if I don't get the building sound at the bottom, it doesn't matter what this guy's doing. Because if the building's falling down in the foundation, guess what? The roof's coming with it. So you got to restore and integrate stuff below first. This is a huge area. But this is also a huge symptomatic area. Why is it? Because look at the mechanics of it. It's short. It's got shorter spans here with big things, multiple levers. It's vulnerable compared to this whole big old block down here, you know. This guy's really vulnerable. So, you know, when I was playing in upper cervical work, I did good symptom work. I just couldn't help anybody with low back pain. You know, great with headaches and TN and that kind of stuff. I just wasn't getting good results with, you know, lower stuff and things. Now I'm changing a lot of stuff. Okay. So when you understand the mechanics of where the insertions are going all the way back to that picture with the guy wires, then you go, hey man, now I see where things are attached. I could focus there a little more. So, you know, sometimes if you couldn't get your hand in that place, you go, I can't get my hand in there. Well, now you go, well, man, I got to get my hand in there. So you're going to move that person around to make sure that you get your hand in there. Okay? So it's important. And once you get your hand in there and you start feeling this stuff, and guess what's going to happen? You're going to start feeling the tension, and then you're going to start learning how to drive through it. You're going to see the path it releases because it's all vagus nerve, okay? Because everybody's path is the same in the same places. So C7 has a path that's different than C5. C0 has a different path, certainly, than C7, okay? And C1 is going to have a different path than C7, C0, and C5. But you know what? C1 has the same path than everybody else. Okay? Pretty straight. Okay. So now the sagittal plane. Without restoring this plane, you cannot get somebody. Guys, there's a couple people that I don't know if you just got on or what. You probably may have just got on phone because there's a capacity here for people to view. Okay, that's why I told you there's limited capacity. So I'm just going to turn off your mics, and I'll change it at the end because I can't hear. There you go. I got it. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. So the sagittal plane, okay, is the plane of life. It is the plane of where we have bounce. And this system right here, where the sagittal plane has broken down, and obviously so has the frontal plane, but it's the frontal plane that breaks down first. We go off center, okay? Grandma doesn't fall forward first, okay? She falls over and downward. Grandma. My wife says, what's with this grandma stuff? It's they see grandma. Okay?
Grandpa.
All right, well, you're grandpa. So grandma falls forward last. So we see all that breakdown and grandma's all bent forward, okay? So that system is the system when it's lost, people become rigid. And when you have rigidity, buildings, like I said, don't bounce, okay? And that's when we see all this junk, when we see all the degeneration. And if you don't get that system back to better, all right, then they're not going to get better. Okay, so when I was only playing with the TPs, I could not reach the level of energetic change what I can today. Okay, so these spinuses are very important, and the TPs are equally as important, but this is a whole new place to play. And you got to get down a little lower, okay, and you got to work in these areas, and it's the same thing, okay. C7 to C5 for the area below the neck, we call that below, okay, the structural stuff. C5 to C1, head and neck. C2, dural attachment, man, right there. That guy you just play with that guy. It's like a joystick. And just think about a kite flying up here, and you could feel tension. You push it right, you push it left, you push it down, you push it up, and you're rotating it around, and you'll feel the tension. And when you get to a place where you can lean in and release it, guess what will happen? People will have deep changes in who they are. Okay? Now, the C0 rim, I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit, but the C0 rim is very fascinating. There's a thing that I'm going to talk about tonight called rolling for people that have been around for a little bit that get to play with some of this stuff, okay? So C5 is probably the last place that I touch on everybody. Not probably, it is. Because when I reach in to create dynamic motion, I play at C5, okay? So what I did here is I gave you the way that I go after these things, okay? So what I do is I go in at the TPs first, and I start at C7, work myself up to C5, all the way up to C0. Guess what happens if there's stuff that I couldn't release here? Well, I go up to here, and I go check back here, and I just start playing around. I just have a rhythm that I do now. That's what I'm talking about, playing the keys. You'll have a rhythm of the way that you do and the way that you follow these things, and you'll realize, hey, that doesn't move, and that's moving, 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 and you go check that, and off you go. And you'll see the rhythm of what I do. But basically, it's C7 all the way up, okay? And then once you do the TPs, guess what? You do the spinuses, okay? Because you've got to restore the frontal support before you could restore the sagittal support. So you need to feel those TPs release really nicely before you can completely get the sagittal. Now, there are times that I can't get the TPs to move, that I have to go get the sagittal to move, okay? There is never, I do it this way. If I start in a place, I always start down at C7. I put my hand down and I start getting connected. And if I'm not connecting in a place, I go find someplace else and I move over. I go down the spine. I check C1, I check the good players out. Just get a little bump and, you know, just get a little rhythm going. Swinging the bat a little bit. Okay, once you start getting connected, literally the patient and yourself, and you'll start going in deeper and you'll find other places, okay? But I start at the TPs and then I go to the sinuses and I start posterior and then I go anterior. Now when I say I go posterior and I go anterior, I am not talking about my drive. What I'm talking about is tucking the chin and extending the chin. Okay, inpatient placement, everybody is placed in the sagittal extension, okay, meaning they are pulled backward because grandma always falls down, okay? Falls forward. Grandma, because she always falls forward, everybody falls forward. Everybody needs to be putting tension in their anterior plane, okay? When I lift the chin up and versus I lift the chin down, I access posterior and anterior planes. You could figure out what that is, okay? Again, not for tonight, but just for, okay? So there are different motions, all right? These are from my big brothers here. There are specific motions that I use for TPs and the spinuses. Okay? So for the TPs, first of all, I always use my inferior hand. So in this case, I'm standing behind a person, here's the head. I would use left hand. Okay? If I was behind them. If I was in front of them, I would use my right hand. I don't care where you stand, in front or back of the person, it will not matter. Okay? What does matter is that you use your inferior hand. Because everybody gets released I to S. The TPs are sitting up like here, 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 here kind of thing. Okay? So they're sitting up top here. Here they are. Okay? And let's call one, let's say that tip of the arrow is one here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come in straight with my inferior hand, and I'm going to grab that TP right here, and I'm going to stretch it and lean in. Okay? I'm going to drive and steer it all the way across. If I was in front of the person, it would be A to P. If I was behind the person, it would be P to A. And then I'm going to use like a torque that we call the wrist lever and turn it upward when I can't go no more. So when I stretch this line as far as it can, I basically do a wrist release and stretch it upward. That's what I do with the TPs. That's the way they release, okay? We'll get into this more. I'm going to add to the way the TPs release because that's not the only way they release, but that's a way that they release, okay? All right. Now, the spinuses are a whole different deal, okay? And this picture is difficult to see, but you're going to see it because I put a hand on the we're going to do this a little more because, again, this is hard to do this, okay? So with the spinuses, okay, it is a hooking motion. Imagine that you're bending over a well and you want to scoop up some water and you want to bring it up to your mouth. You're going to scoop it up sideways. So with your right hand, your hand would be out and you would scoop it up. Okay, that scooping motion is the scooping motion that I use for the spinuses. Okay, so I go and I grab and I don't go any deeper and I scoop it up. Okay, that's the way I release the spinuses in the get-go. There's always more, and I can't give you it all. How we doing? Is that helping some people out? No?
Yeah.
Making more? Brad, you always say yes.
It's always yes.
Can I just get one more yes, just for the heck of it, even if you lie?
Yes.
Thank you. Excellent. Okay. So this is the TPs. The TPs come in, the spinous comes across, and then it hooks up. Okay? This is the motion for the spinuses and the TPs. You can do the TPs on this as well, and I'm going to talk about that in just a second. Do you see this? This will help you. So when I have a patient and they're in front of me, and I come and I'm driving my knee across in my inferior hand, if I want to go into the TPs, I go straight in and inferior to them, and once I grab them, I grab it at the most inferior, whatever side I'm, if I'm anterior, it'd be inferior, anterior, and I lean into it and stretch it, and I'll stretch it as far as I can, anterior to posterior, and then wrist lever it up, AKA torque. Fair enough? Okay. I can also stand on the platform or stand above them. Now, when I do this first motion that I just told you where I drive across it, I'm lower and I'm coming at level to it. My arm is level to it. My pisiform is level to the neck. There's a way for me to come above the neck and just scoop those TPs, okay? Remember, TPs are just sitting. So say there's a TP here. I could come in from, say I'm coming in from the back side here, okay, and I'm using my left hand. I'm coming in, inferior hand, boom, boom, boom. I come across, and then I come up. A lot of times I stand on my platform, and I get great leverage from above, and I come in, and I use that sweep, and I hook them this way and up, and I go this way, this way, this way, this way. Scoop, 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 scoop. So this one, drive, release, drive, release, drive, release, drive, release, drive, release, drive, release, C5, C4, drive, release, 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 all the way up to the fascia that's in here, rectus capitis posterior minor, C0, C rim. I come here, C7, TP, scoop, C6, scoop, 5, scoop, 4, scoop, 3, scoop, 2, scoop, 1, 1, 1, 1, P to A to P, and then downward, down on the TP. You can lever the Atlas TP. I used to do it all the day, okay? It's no problem. It's got tons of leverage up here, okay? You can bend it all over the place, okay? It's got attachments all over the place for the head and some of the neck. People with migraines, TN, dural stuff, brain fog. Okay? I got one guy that comes in to me, his mom just started him, brain fog, boom, I adjust him, and he just can't stop going, man, I feel great. Wow, I just feel great. Feel great, feel great. Okay? All that release around that C0 rim and that C2 for that dura. Okay? The person over here that's got low back stuff, okay, because he's got 15 pounds on the left and it's bent on this side, well, guess what? I'm hanging out in this area, being really focused. Okay? Drive, release, okay? Scoop, 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 scoop. That's simple, man. Get your TP on it, feel the resistance against it, lean into it, and then bring your hands up. Your body moves as a three-dimensional motion. Okay, nothing moves separately in the body. Everything moves. You're a one moving machine. Okay, do not separate body parts on them or you. It's bad. I'm gonna get a laugh on that. All right. I'm having fun. Okay, so that's the deal with what I do. Okay, and that's the motion right there. And that works freaking great. And I love it. Okay, so it's a couple different a couple different clubs, you know? All right. What else do I want to tell you? Okay, so I want to tell you something cool. Okay? And that is, I've been going in to these places like I just showed you, C7 scoop, C6 scoop, C5 scoop, C7, A to P, stretch, and then up, okay? I have to come up with a name for these two things so that I can speak about them, the motions. But there's another thing that I do, and that is more of a sustained 3D release. Now, every TP, every spinous, and the head, okay, can be moved three-dimensionally, all right? And the human head is kind of cool, okay, because, here's the head. Let's say here's the neck, and here's the body down here. I couldn't find a picture, but I was trying to find a picture of a sock. I wrote about it, around the ball, okay? Well, if I roll the ball, and I held the sock over here, and I started rolling the ball, the way that I rolled the ball, it would go ahead, and it would pull the sock in different directions. If the sock was attached here, which it is. Notice that the top of your head is attached, that your skin can only move a certain amount because there's an attachment there. So if you attach the sock here, and you hold it down here at the sacrum, and you roll the head, and I roll it this way, what do? I create tension this way. If I roll the head that way, I create tension this way. And you'll start looking at this no matter where you touch and roll. Guess what happens? You're creating three-dimensional motion throughout the whole body, okay, because you're rolling out and you're rolling tension. So I do that with everybody now. So I want to give you another piece to this, and that is you have to release the static stuff first. You got to get the lower structural stuff, then you get the upper stuff above C5, then you get C0 and C1, you do the TPs, then you do the spinuses, you do them P, you do them A, chin down, chin up. Okay, the placement is beautiful. And then you start reaching into the spinuses and into the head, okay, at those places, and you start playing like rollerball, okay? So I start reaching in at two big places, C0 and C5, okay, because they are places of big leverage, okay? There's a big leverage point here, okay? That's why upper cervical likes it, all right? There's a huge leverage point here. I can get in here and think of as I lean into this and move this way, move this on the blue line, move it on. I could come in right here and I can come straight in. I could come in this way. I could come in that way. After I've released the TPs, after I've released the spinuses, I'm talking about creating dynamic motion in there now. You do that by sustained rolling and bending, okay? Now let me tell you about this. If you roll somebody and bend them in a place that the vagus nerve is not supposed to be, then guess what's happening, guys? You will be in trouble. You will hurt them. Okay? So I'm telling you now that this is serious. Do not do this, okay, just to do something, okay? And when you do it, you have to learn the way the body moves. Now, you already know, okay? I'm just telling you to be cautious here, okay? Don't get in here like a wrecking crew ever, but just lean in and start feeling the tension at C5 if you're able to get through the resistance of everything else. You can't restore motion until you take the cast off. Okay? So all of you are going to go try this. I know you will. Okay? But if you don't get the cast off, you're just going to push against it, and the people are going to start going, "You're hurting me." How do I know? Because I did it. Okay? So I'm telling you, I lost 3 patients doing this a year ago. All right? I had to get up to where I am today to realize why I learned it a year ago, or came to me a year ago, or if not longer, and some of you heard the story for sure, because I keep telling you, I heard those 3 people. I know who it was. They didn't come back because I pushed in a direction that I didn't go synergistically with the way that the body is supposed to move. And as chiropractors, we better know the range of motion of the joints, because that is our business. That at least we did learn. Okay? So as you lean in, you want to be able to restore that motion 3-dimensionally, whatever that is. Okay, and that's why those spinuses are so important, because there's a huge range of motion here. Okay, and why is range of motion really great in a system of tension that's collapsed? Because if I could imagine I could turn this arrow so it's pointing down. I can't, because this webinar only gives you an arrow that points. Actually, I could do this. Hold on. There we go. I push down here like this, okay? What I'm doing, I can feel in here on every single person what the normal range of motion is, yes? And you can actually start restoring that range of motion into that person, and you'll start feeling it release, and you will open people up like you have never opened them up before. Okay? But you got to learn the game in here to release all the static pieces first, and then you have to be able to release them dynamically. So reach in at C7, okay, and also right here at C0, and you can bend a little bit this way, and you'll roll the ball. So if I come in here at a little bit of an angle, say at C0, C1, I come in an angle like that, I can roll the ball of the head S to I to S, S to I, excuse me, S to I, that way. And that can really pull some great tension on this side here that I may want to get at. Because I see this thing not as a neck. I see it as a steering wheel 3-dimensionally to every single thing that sits down below this person. And I don't have to know the misalignment. Okay, once I set them up and I go into my keyboard, how do I play? I play by releasing tension. And I release as many pieces as I can, and then I release it dynamically. Okay? And that is something that you have to be able to see. And this webinar is to have that conversation, okay, about telling you about the place that I want to take you. Okay? Any questions? Okay, beautiful. No questions? Anybody learning anything yet? No? Nothing. Okay. All right. So I'm going to wrap it up. Let me see what I got here. I think I got 2 more slides or something. Whoa, man, it is late. Holy mackerel. Dude, I'm sorry. Okay. You guys are welcome to go, man. I usually go an hour and a half, but I am going to finish what I'm doing here. I think I got 3 more things to talk about. This one is Brad kind of gave me a patient of his that he was having some trouble with. And I want to talk about it because I think there's going to be some good learning here biomechanically of what to do. Again, you have to know how to take care of somebody biomechanically, and then you have to be able to get it set up so that you can release it, and then you got to be able to release it. There's a lot of stuff that goes on, you know? Okay? So with Brad's situation here, this is the listing that he had. And Brad chose, okay, some type of list of release, okay? And what he did on the post was this, okay? And if you notice, just the pieces to stick out, you know, because we're moving along here, is that the left weight increased, okay, and the counter rotation stayed the same. And if you look at this, okay, a level 1 release, okay, would be going ahead and releasing stuff onto the structure. Now, if I was a betting man, I would say that this thing is going to set up as an LLL-RRR. So if this person walked in my door and it was a new patient, or I saw it counter-rotated, I would go ahead and I would treat it as a level 1 release, and I would adjust it as an L and an R, okay? Done. That being said, there is another way to look at this, okay? And say I could look at it as a level 2, okay? Because I want to, okay? You have a choice, okay? Just because I treat it as a level 1 doesn't mean that it's going to respond well, okay? And that's the cool thing about what we do, is that there are a couple ways to look at things. Now, I would treat this as a level 1 because it's counter-rotated, okay? And I'd see what happened, okay? So there are guidelines and rules to the game, but there's an understanding of that the human body is not a mechanical piece of machinery, and because I put this in and I thought so, that it actually occurred, okay? Because we know that doesn't happen, all right? So we have to be able to understand other options. So there's another option that says, hey, if this wasn't counter-rotated and there was just a single dysfunction, meaning there is a piece that is not working directly and it's coordinated to the head, meaning if the fixed point was to the right and the head was to the left, I could say, okay, that head is tilted, that compensation is directly related to that fixed point. There's only one dysfunction. If I fix this one, the head will come out. I'm going to pop that out. But that's not the case here, okay? So that doesn't even count, okay? So there's another option, okay? And that is the option to just look at this thing as a math problem and say, you know what? There are four L's, there's 2 R's, excuse me, okay? There's four L's and there's 2 R's. That should be a 2, okay? There's my error for the night, all right? 4 L's and 2 R's. From a math problem, I need to end on the left so that, because I need to get 3 L's, so I'm going to release one of those L's to an R. Simple math problem, okay? So Brad chose what? He chose this right here, okay? He chose to pick it as a math problem, okay? And what happened is this, okay? It popped out, okay? And it did not decompress. All right, so I just want to look a little bit deeper in here to help Brad next time and you guys to say, Brad, you shouldn't have done that. Okay, now, Brad, you shouldn't have done that if that person was a new patient or they were counter-rotated. Okay, and I'm not talking to you, Brad, I'm talking to everybody here, okay, because this is a great question, okay? So if they were not that way, okay, and this happened, what other things would have helped me to realize that I actually should have done ended on the right, and Brad did it by the math and ended on the left? How do I know that? Because this thing popped out, and again, it didn't do what it wants to do, okay? So there's something here that tells me that at least gives me an indicator that I should end, that I got to get something out on the right, and that there is something out on the right that may be primary. And what is that, Travis? The head tilt. See, the head tilt is telling me that there's something, that it's, because it's tilting left, it's telling me that there's something stuck on the right, okay? Because the head doesn't subluxate. It compensates. So guys, I can have 4 L's, okay? 4 L's, okay? I can have a majority of the body on the left, okay? But I can have a hook in there that's on the right. Does one of these, okay? And it's not just a linear line. So when I actually come in on this thing to release it, it bends it, okay? And it collapses it further. It's collapsing this in here, all right? So how can I know that? Number one, I could take a guess that I could say the primary for me is I would have ended on the left here, and the thing that's good for that is level 1, and it's already counter-rotated, and it's a new patient. Now I got 3 things telling me that I should be doing that. Are you following me here, Brad?
Yes.
Okay, so what I'm doing is, if this person wasn't a new patient, if there wasn't a counter-rotation, that head could have given me an indication, because I'm not seeing some direct relationship here. Something's scrambled here. What is dysfunctioning? Okay? What's dysfunctioning? Okay, something must be on the right. Well, the only things that are on the right are these 2 things here. Are they too far right? Well, if they're too far right, they're too right. Well, maybe this left fixed point is left, but it's really right of where it should be. Well, if the right is where it should be, I got to get that out of there. That's a primary first before I can fix this thing. Okay, so the head gives me an indication that I should do that. Okay? So that's the way I see this thing. So the other piece is Brad made a choice and he made the wrong call. And I'm going to back up for 1 second here. If this is a new patient, it's a no-brainer, okay? And it's counter-rotated, it's a no-brainer. But if this person walks in and it wasn't counter-rotated, you can't see a clear dysfunction, and you just go ahead and decide, should I just unwind it like a level 1, or should I do it as a math problem? That's the question here, because there is no level 2 here, because doesn't exist. Should I take it as a math problem, or should I take it as a level 1? And to me, I take it as a level 1 because the head is telling me to end on the right, which is a primary. And this one as a math problem tells me to take it on the left. I don't like that. So anyway, I'm not going to listen to my higher self. I'm going to do what Brad did, and I'm going to do where I end on the right. And the whole thing pops out, okay? Now, what did it do? It went from a 9 to a 7. Which way is it going?
9 to a 17, you mean?
Yeah, which way is it going?
It's going further. There's still something on the left.
No, where is it going? Which direction is it moving? You need to know where it's going. It's going to the left, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. So I told you, if you want to unwind these things, do you want to create a knot? If you're unwinding, if you're trying to unravel something and you start pulling on that thing and it gets tighter, do you keep pulling? No. You go with it, okay? So you need to go with the body here. So which side up would go with the body? On the right, Brad.
The right side up would get the body.
Would go with the body. And you need to get this person completely open before you can have a conversation about trying to make it smaller. Okay, because that 9 and that 17 may not be the end of it. It may be at 25. And you just be back where you were. Okay? So you need to get these things unraveled. So if you have a person and the numbers get bigger, you went against it. Okay? So you need to flip them over and go with it. Very simple.
For two or 3 months, the fixed point was opposite the left hip initially, and we're talking 2 years ago.
Okay, so that's even bigger.
Right fixed point.
Thank you, Brad. That even is a bigger. That's another clue. Okay, what Brad just said to me, he said this. Let me erase this. I've got to get going here.
She wasn't counter-rotated. She just had a large rotation for hips and shoulders.
I don't remember if it was counter-rotated or large.
Just large rotation, same thing.
Brad, it's the same thing, right?
Right.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, so what Brad just told me is that this right here, that that fixed point, the second letter, was an R at one time. And if that was the case, now you have a direct relationship, and it tells you then that you should have ended on the right. And she's just not ready to be treated as ending on the left, Brad.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
All right. So listen, this is the thing that we're going to learn tonight, okay, is that you have to work with the body, never against it. And Darcy, one of the things that level 1 and level 2 is, and that's probably about 80–90% of the patients, okay, that you will ever touch, is that you have to work with them, which means you don't try to work against them. So if they have left 15, most of the time we're not trying to correct left 15, okay? We're trying to release that to have the body balanced because there's some piece that's dysfunctioning. And when you, this is the cool thing, okay, and just visualize this. Again, I told you this. If you stood on one leg and held a suitcase with your arm out that was 10 pounds, that would be very heavy, okay, and leaned over a subway station, cliff, okay? You got me? Now if you hold the 10 pounds on 2 feet and you hold it at the center of your body, that 10 pounds feels very different, okay? So that being said is integrating the body allows it to take any weight differential that you saw at 30 pounds. Remember, 30 pounds is an expression of that misalignment's ability to hold that thing in gravity. If you change that misalignment, that same 30 pounds is now 10 pounds and 5 pounds. So by changing the misalignment, you change the energetic exertion on top of it. And if we can balance the misalignment and not go to correct it, which we have to do, and release it upward and out, up and open, then guess what happens? We create a better sustainable place, and the 30 pounds becomes 10 pounds, and it looks like we're doing something. But what we're actually doing is integrating the body and says, I can handle this because now it feels like 10 pounds. Okay? So you got to follow its lead because it's telling you where it wants to go. Okay? Until it tells you otherwise. And that is what I call body talk. Okay? So you just got to learn to listen because the world is giving you answers every single day. I had a patient today, I said left side up. What did she do? She went right side up. What do you think I did? I adjusted her right side up. That's just what I do. Because who am I to tell her universal intelligence, innate intelligence, which way to go? So I just adjusted her that way. It's easy for me. Okay, so any questions on anything that I said?
Yeah, I got one, Russell.
Go.
So when you said go with the body, if the numbers get bigger, you went or ended on the wrong side. Now it's okay for the weight to get bigger though, right? As long as those counter rotations come out and balance the equation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
So Travis, you're going to have to make a decision because sometimes, okay, there's a place, you know, again, and nothing is black and white. But what I'm trying to get people to do is stop trying to fix people and try to go with the body and unwind them. And there are multiple ways to look at it, okay? And there's multiple clues. There's multiple ways by level 1, level 2, math, okay, level 3, Darcy, which is the algorithm to correct it. That's all fine and good, okay? But you got to be able to understand that what you did and then what it's doing and how it's responding to it. And that is how you become an empowered doctor, all right? That being said, Travis, is depending on where that person was symptomatically, okay, I would have a conversation with them for sure, but I would also think about what I would do. So if they went out and it was 9 pounds and it went to 30, and I said, whoa, man, I can't leave them there. I would have them go rest for a few minutes. If it still was at 30, I'd get them left side up, okay? And I would tell them that I may be making a mistake and the whole thing's going to collapse. But I'm afraid that today's Thursday, and I'm not going to see them till Monday because I'm up in the mountains. They're not going to get me, and I'm not having their back go out, and that's why they're there, because I just blew that thing out 30 pounds. You got me? And so that would be a concern for me. So I would try to help that a little bit to see if it would normalize. Okay? But you got to be cool with that. You know, you got to know that you got to have a couple different clubs. You can't just get up there with Bam Bam and a 5-wood, you know, and start whacking away, or a 3-wood, man. You know, you may just need a little pitching wedge up there to just give a little bit of nurturing to innate, you know. Okay, so I've been doing this for about 7 years. I don't know, I think that's right, maybe 8. Maybe it's 8 now. Yeah, it's 2009, Brad told me. Okay, 8 years. we've come a long way, okay? People say, hey, let's see some research. Well, you know what? I want to see some research from other people too, but the big thing is I am in a place now where I can do and I can see some real consistent results. And I have a lousy X-ray system in a sense right now for what we need, taking full spines, okay? And there's some things that I have to do, and there's things that we're working on. So right now we're doing some case studies, and in the meantime, okay, I'm seeing some cool stuff in sectional views and some full spines and so forth, and I'm putting some stuff up as I start posting along. But what I'm doing now is the only reason why I posted these two people is because of what I felt. And that sagittal plane and releasing that sagittal lock and getting those curves back, when I feel that, and just in the past week or two, I said, hey, I'm going to start taking some posts, okay? You take a post when you're ready to take a post, okay? And this is what I saw. Now, this lady, both of these people started within the past week, okay? Week and a half, okay? And this is a side view that I took, and this is right away, and that's a pretty nice shot, okay? See if you can see that a little bit better. Okay, there. Slow down. Okay, so that's a nice little bend, okay? Hard palate actually on this one is a little bit lower, okay? So that curve may even be turning around a little bit, okay? But look at the breakdown there, okay? This one, this lady came in today, okay? She has, what do you think? Left arm weakness, numbness, okay? And it's been going on. It started about 10 years ago, and it's constant right now for the past 2 months. I saw her today. And she's completely 100% right now. This is her post after the first adjustment. Now, that's not the whole body. I got it. I'm talking the whole body. I'm getting there. I gotta get a place where I feel comfortable doing what I'm doing and feeling, and I don't think one visit is the way to show this stuff. Okay, so 6 months, you know, of changing stuff, or 3 months of changing stuff and doing, you know, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 people in a row and showing those changes, but I have to be able to have a system to do that, and that's not simple. So this is a cool thing that I'm seeing. It's a cool thing that I'm feeling, okay? We have a seminar in Seattle. Now, I'm telling you, class size is limited, okay? The webinars are limited, all right? We're doing 4 classes next year, okay? I'm expecting to have 10 research papers out, hopefully, by, I don't want to put a number on it, but there are 2 more in the hopper right now. One's already been approved, and Allie's doing case studies. This one's coming out on syncope, all right? And, you know, we're doing some cool stuff. We're a young group, man, and everybody's asking us questions on things that old groups haven't even put up yet. All right, global changes. I want to see somebody show me a global change on a consistent basis on X amount of patients a row, or live. Live. Let's see it live, not over a year. So I'm going to tell you another piece that we're doing. And the board had a meeting last night. And I can look at this group, and this is, I believe where I'm going to end, yeah. So we have a directory, and we have a membership. And what the board spoke of last time, and it spoke of last night, was, and this is the Q Foundation, is that we have a lot of people, and I can look at people on this group right here, okay? And there are people here that may be doing this that are not members. And for whatever that reason it is, personal reasons, okay, whatever those reasons are, all right? But they are doing as a primary, or it's a big part of their life in their office. They're integrating it into their office. And we don't have somebody in a certain area and we're not supporting you because you may not have the ability to get to a conference or the ability to pay, okay? Or you only have an ability to come to a conference, but you don't have the ability to pay for membership. You're starting up in practice, and there's somebody on here right now that I can look at starting up a practice. I don't expect him to go spend $2,000 to be a member. So what we've decided to do is we're going to be sending out an email, and for 2018, and if you would like to be on our directory, you will fill this out, and you're going to start putting in that, and there's people that have come and that have supported the organization, and they're doing the work. And we want to make sure that if there are times where they're not able to support us, that we're able to support you, because we need you as much as we need you need us. Okay? Because without the whole, we're not, we're nothing. It's a vitalistic view. So it's a great way to look at things. So 2018 will not have membership, but we will have a directory that has people on it that shows their participation levels and shows their support for the organization. And that way, when somebody needs somebody and you're that person, that they get to find out who you are, okay? So we came up with that over the past couple months, that we want to be able to support you, and hopefully you'll be able to have balance with that on the other side, okay? Are there any questions on anything? Okay, so I did push recording. I wish all of you a great weekend. I thank you for everything. We have a great gift. Yeah, we have a great gift here in chiropractic, and we have a great ability to make great changes. And this organization, without question, is leading that quest of our craft. There is no doubt about it. There is no doubt. And for you to be here, and for you to tell others, and to tell patients, and to get on Facebook and use the language of QSm3 and show and share, that's what it takes, okay? So if you're able to do that, and then you have the ability to do that, I ask that you remember that. Andrew Smith.
On that top pre and post, what is that thing in the lower neck? Is that something from surgery or something?
Oh yeah, apparently. Yeah, she's had surgery.
Sure.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what that thing was.
I guess that's a nuts and bolts. I don't have I could blow it up. I don't remember what that is. Andy, I don't talk about any of that stuff. You know that, right?
Mhm.
You know what I talk about.
Yep.
Dan, that's freaking beautiful, isn't it?
Taking that standing up or sitting?